In this video, I'll be nuking enemies with a weapon that deals viral, heat, electric, and slash, while having infinite ammo, not being a Kuva weapon, and dealing orange to red crits.
Been broken a long time, don't remember the highlights of me.
What's good, folks? It's WARFRAME here with a new WARFRAME video coming at you with an insane WARFRAME and weapon synergy. Now, commenting is an integral part of social media posts, but if you skipped and asked a question that has the answer in the video explaining the exact thing you're asking for, then I'll stare at you, or simply respond with a timestamp to this segment, so please pay attention. But if it's anything else, feel free to ask away down below. Anyway, this loadout is using Harrow and the first arm cannon to ever be released into WARFRAME, the Shedu. This weapon is almost forgotten as it's not a great option, especially when compared to the likes of the Bubonico that shreds without any extra steps. However, Shedu can do a bit more, but only with synergies. Like Bubonico, it's a battery weapon, meaning it has infinite ammo but with a recharge delay upon depleting your ammo. A rifle with a simple 25% crit chance and a 2.1 critical multiplier. It has 2 damage instances where its direct hits deal heat damage and the radial explosion on contact deal electric. The status application is separate from both instances. If you put a singular elemental mod, it will combine with both of the innate elements. So a toxin mod will give you gas and corrosive, and with its low magazine of 7, you will deplete it fairly quickly. However, upon depleting the magazine, a shockwave is released within a 20-meter radius that staggers enemies and procs impact. And that shockwave is amazing against the sentient and stalker's damage adaptation, as it completely refreshes it. The shockwave unfortunately doesn't do that much damage, but it's there for great utility. And the Shedu, with all of its AoE, unfortunately it is not affected by Prime Firestorm, which is a bummer because a lot of people in WARFRAME love their kabloomy weapons and builds. The AoE Force Impact can proc internal bleeding, but it's not efficient for killing stragglers. I tried it and it's just not there. The AoE on magazine depletion doesn't scale that well, unless you're using Saren's Toxic Lash. And the AoE doesn't crit consistently, even with Harrow's Covenant. However, Arcane Avenger allows it to crit, and when the AoE crits, it has a chance to proc Hunter Munitions. That's right. The Shedu's recharge is not the best without any buffs, not to mention the fire rate. This is where I introduce Harrow into the mix. His second ability, Penance, buffs this weapon with the best utility, fire rate and reload speed. Upon casting Penance, it consumes Harrow's shields. At the same time, it heals a percentage of his health and provides him with several buffs ranging from lifesteal, gunfire rate, melee attack speed, and reload speed. All the buffs scale from power strength. However, the duration of this ability is unique because it uses your base and modded duration and the amount of shields you have to receive the buff, capping out at 120 seconds. And yes, overshields are also taken into account. This build doesn't need a Helminth, but the one Helminth ability that will free up mod slots and give you even more build diversity is, of course, Nourish. Thurible can be tedious because it takes a hot minute to wind up to give you a reasonable energy multiplier. However, this is what I decided to replace. Some people will call me crazy, but hear me out. Nourish grants my weapons the viral elemental damage multiplier, and it also has an AoE viral damage spread when you take damage. And this spread also staggers enemies. A nice small stun. Nourish also grants you energy regen multiplier from all sources. This is going to be the ability that regenerates my energy economy economy, as I'll be casting abilities, have negative efficiency, and not use Arcane Energize. There was this interesting tip brought to my attention on my recent comments. When using Combat Discipline alongside Nourish allows you to effectively spread the viral procs from Nourish when you lose health, since it counts as taking damage. Pretty useful, and hopefully it isn't a bugged interaction. If it is and gets patched, you can still successfully use this build, as I have done so Helminthless. Combat Discipline also helps proc Arcane Avenger, making my Shedu's AoE from magazine depletion crits, which can trigger Hunter Munitions, and then pairing that up with Nourish's AoE viral procs, this will help me clear rooms even better. Condemn for the crowd control and to replenish the shields, especially when I lose them from casting Penance, or when they just break from enemy attacks. Covenant is of course needed for the crit chance and additional defenses, and I highly advise against using Harrow's 4th ability, Augment, as that completely removes your survivability and downtime setup. What this essentially means is that when your buffs eventually run out, or they're about to, you need a breather to refresh them, because believe it or not, enemies won't stop shooting at you. The additional iframe is so beneficial against splash damage and AoE overtime threats. So how does this build work? It's very simple. At the start, Void Dash to trigger the Matter Eye buffs and activate your Penance and Nourish, cast your 4th ability, and just go to town. The Matter Eye Focus School will be used for the additional 60% power strength increase from Sling Strength after performing 2 ground slings, and 50% casting speed from a single transference, just making all of his abilities feel faster and more fluid, leaving you little downtime for your setup. However, if you don't have time to sling and you want to cast Covenant for the iframes, then you can animation cancel. Simply cast your ability and double tap escape. And there you have it. You just reduce the animation time. The build has an amazing 100 kills per minute, and you can easily go into survival and not have to worry about life support. Also, for the operator Arcanes, I suggest using Magus Lockdown to tether enemies, especially when you Void Dash for your Matter Eye buffs, so they stop shooting at you, just for a bit. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter, and it's up to you. Alright, without further ado, let's take a look at the build. And this build will not have a Decaying Dragon Key, because I will need the full load of my shields. In the aura, I have Combat Discipline at max rank. Whenever I kill enemies, I lose health and heal allies within the area, but I won't die from this since I have Penance. Prime Sure-Footed for the knockdown and stagger resistance, power strength at 243% with Blind Rage and Umbral Intensify, buffing the buffs my Penance gives, energy and viral damage multiplier alongside the shield regen from Condemn. Duration at 179% with Prime Continuity and Augur Message, giving me decent uptime on all my active buffs and crowd control. And for additional duration on Penance, I have Redirection, giving me a large shield pool. Stretch alone for the range, perfect for the CC on Condemn and the viral spread on Nourish. Prime Flow for the large energy pool to give me enough room to cast my abilities with ease. And finally, Rolling Guard for the additional iframes and status cleansing. In the Arcanes, I have Arcane Avenger for the flat 45% crit chance increase on weapons and some abilities. And the last Arcane is Arcane Acceleration for the increase in fire rate when you crit, which makes the Shedu a beast because, listen, you're going to be critting 100% of the time. And now moving on to the Shedu. As you can see, the build has no elemental mods. The base damage is coming from the primary Merciless Arcane, as that grants me a 360% base damage multiplier, and also reload speed, pairing well with Penance. The faction mod to multiply my modded damage and double dip with damage over time, which will be Bleed, Heat, and Electric. My crit chance without Harrow's buff will be at 120% thanks to Critical Delay and Arcane Avenger. And if I'm critting 100% of the time, then I need to multiply the damage my crits deal. So I have Bladed Rounds and Vital Sense for the critical damage multiplier, Galvanized Aptitude for the additional damage scaling on the direct hits while also providing me with additional status chance. And finally, the Vigilante mods for the Vigilante passive give me that chance to hit an additional critical tier to further boost my damage. For my companion, I do have the Jinn, with a very basic build, some survivability and utility mods, along with the Augment that allows it to revive itself when it dies. The reason I'm using a Sentinel is because I can equip a primary Sentinel weapon with additional Vigilante mods to further increase my chances to hit that additional crit tier. Very convenient if Harrow's Covenant is charging. And finally, the VASTILOK, used for armor stripping acolytes so my viral damage can deal even more damage to them. Who would have thought? Augment. And I also use this VASTILOK for EIDOLONs and Demolist armor stripping, alongside some added utility. The main thing you want is attack speed and shattering impact. You don't need to proc impact, just have impact damage on your weapon. And the VASTILOK is amazing at armor stripping because it shoots out 9 pellets. This build is really hard to die on and completely shreds steel path, and I'm sure you guys will enjoy it because even Nourish mains can do it. I mean, they have to press extra buttons, but I'm sure they can, right? Right? Alright folks, that has been it from this video. If you've learned something new and enjoyed the video, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.